right, happy to be joined once again with the CEO of Body and Mind. Michael Mills joins us once again. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Good to see you, Shad.
Good. Seems like every time we talk, there's more and more excitement that it continues to build within this U.S. cannabis landscape. Your latest financials obviously demonstrated that big time. But, what are you hearing, I guess, on the latest front with how things are developing? Any word or any feedback from people you're speaking with regards to the Safe Banking Act? And where do you think overall, like the overall health, I guess, of this industry? Because it appears right now on paper, it's almost like at an all-time high.
I think the health of the industry is incredibly strong. And when you look at, when you look at the acceleration of developments at
Yeah,
not just the federal level, but the state level
right.
in the last 6 months, when you go back to Colorado 10 years ago, that being the first state to go through the real challenges of becoming legal for adult use, and then the in pioneering states who sort of followed them, and moved from sometimes medical to adult use, or straight into adult use. We had that experience in Nevada, starting as a medical company, and
Yep.
watching the transition to adult use. But the acceleration that we've seen in the state level over the last 6 months has been unbelievable. And obviously, with safe banking coming back to the House, it's already come to the House a couple times, coming back to the House with a Democratic
Yep.
opportunity here. This is a bipartisan opportunity to make banking easier for the industry. And it seems to me that it's a fairly easy step for both the House and the Senate to move that forward. But at the end of the day, it's government. But this movement that we've seen for regarding cannabis,
Right.
and really the normalization of cannabis as not just medicinal but adult use, it really seems to be moving quite quickly here.
What's the feedback that Tripp's hearing, your chief operating officer? Because as you said, there's a movement. There is, just an overall perception that people, do I say the word accepting? I don't know if that's the right term, but again, it almost feels like it's like in some ways viewed as like with a lot of people, like alcohol, it's accepted. It's just part of like everybody's normal day life.
Yeah, I think you always need to remember that you're taking some fairly significant steps here, and
Yeah.
cannabis was very illegal for such a long time. So the transition has taken a long time, and I think that we've got these, as I mentioned, we've got these pioneering states, Colorado, Washington, Nevada, that took the step early, and really demonstrated that it can be done in a safe, legal, and regulated way. And I think, when you look at the industry in general, the sales numbers really talk for themselves. In California, the sales in 2016 were 2.8 billion. In 2020, there were 4.4 billion, and that's just
Wow.
the legal cannabis industry. So we continue to see very significant growth in all our markets.
Staggering numbers, and we're not even started yet. And look how big it is. You look at even New York, it's inching closer to legalization. Who would have thought? But before I talk about your latest financials, you recently announced the appointment of Alexis Podesta to your board. She was previously entrusted to manage California's sprawling California Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency and its $4.75 billion budget as a director of the company. So I wanted to ask, is there a specific purpose in getting someone so politically connected in California cannabis to your board, or is it simply just a case of hiring the most qualified candidate?
Yeah, I think it's a question of a few different things, and it's really good to have perspective.
Yep.
And Alexis was, her agency was instrumental in moving from medicinal to adult use. And so, we've got a really good combination of capital markets people on our board, obviously operational people as well.
Yeah.
And Alexis brings just another viewpoint. And I think it's really important to have a cohesive board that can bring different perspectives to the company.
Well, cash flow positive, what it's all about when it comes down to the bottom line in this industry. And you announced another impressive financial performance for Q2 2021, with quarterly revenues jumping as much as 19% sequentially, and your second consecutive quarter with positive adjusted EBITDA. So, outside of additional managed revenues to the top line, why is organic growth so strong at Body and Mind, and why should investors take notice?
Yeah, Shad, we've been focused on growing the company in a very measured way, and that includes looking at every one of our operations. For example, in Nevada, in our cultivation facility, We took a look at the entire layout of the facility and managed to get 20% more canopy. And
Mhm.
that's a very meaningful addition. That's something that we started doing renovations and construction on probably 6 months ago, and
Right.
we're actually just going to start to see the new flowering and the additional revenue start to come in roughly March. So we'll see that in the next quarter. We have focused on operations since the beginning. We focused on our limited license markets, which we feel are generally a better way to have superior returns. And we also, at the same time, are looking to new markets and are involved in license applications. And I think everyone in this business right now is talking to other people in the business as well.
Sounds interesting to say the least when you put it that way. And I have to tell you, like a lot of these big multi-state operators, they get a lot of the news and stuff like that. However, there's tremendous growth opportunity for like medium-sized companies like yours. Um, where do you see, I guess, over the next 6 to 12 months, the true growth potential that's at stake for you? Because if we keep seeing these quarterly reports of 20% increase, staggering numbers to say the least.
Well, thanks very much, Chad. Yeah, I think the big growth for us is going to come as we activate some of the licenses over the next probably month and a half or so. We expect to have Arkansas cultivation permitted and set up, ready to go. We're working on Ohio production. That's not too distant in the future, and those do a couple things for us. They let us bring the Body and Mind brand into new states.
Yep.
And obviously supply our dispensaries in those states as well. But obviously, the larger growth comes with acquisitions. We're certainly talking to other individual operators and groups in the business, and that obviously is a great way to move revenue higher fairly quickly.
Are you receiving a lot of interest from a lot of different potential partners?
We are, this turns into a fairly small business
Yeah, I'm
fairly
sure.
quickly, and I think that we've developed a good reputation as strong operators and good folks to work with, and that certainly does bring attention and interest.
What's the feedback that you receive how people are interested besides the obvious, which is, the revenue that you're turning, but is it a lot of it have to do with the, I guess, the overall strategy?
Yeah, look, if you're a dispensary owner or a cultivation owner, and you're looking to either sell your venture, you really want to look with a group that's got a long-term horizon. And we're generally looking for partners who share our concept of the market, that we're in the early innings in U.S. cannabis here.
Yeah.
And uh, when we have discussions with vendors, and we have discussions with owners of dispensaries, production facilities, whatever it may be. Obviously, our focus is on getting the very best ROI for the company, but we also want to have people who are going to be, investors in Body and Mind, and
Right.
view us as a great investment for the future.
Yeah, sounds good, and it makes sense. You indicated earlier your completed expansion of new cultivation, which was a highlight in your latest earnings, increased cultivation output by approximately 20%. So I have to ask, where are we, I guess, in the Nevada market? And does the extra cultivation and finished goods that you're producing meet the demand that the state has to offer?
Yeah, absolutely. We were very lucky in Nevada. We received one of the first cultivation and production licenses in that state. So we've been, in every single dispensary. We know the dispensaries very well. It's a very trusted name. The large majority of our buyers in that state are actually local Nevadans. I think we could probably increase our capacity for cultivation by 100% and still
Yeah.
sell everything. Everything we grow is sold before it gets cut down.
What are you seeing recently as far as numbers and the overall interest in some of these locations?
Yeah, Nevada's, and I haven't seen a stat in the last couple of months, but there was a great stat during the summer where tourism was down 60%, and cannabis sales were up roughly 30%. Nevada, and particularly Las Vegas, is starting to look a lot like pre-pandemic Las Vegas, and it's great. The entire economy has had a really tough time. It's been a challenge in Nevada without the tourism, which is a big driver for Las Vegas. But I think it also really highlights that our brand has been adopted and enjoyed by really mainly locals, because we didn't see a dramatic slowdown in sales in any way.
Wow. Good times or bad? Always a need for cannabis, is there not?
Well, it's definitely starting to look a lot more like an alcohol or
Yeah,
type product, and yeah, again, we're starting to see a real normalization where people a year or
I
two
know.
ago wouldn't even consider cannabis as part of their lifestyle. People are looking at it in various different ways.
What do you think's changed? Is it just ongoing conversations and the overall development and health of the industry?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of success to point to, right? And go back to the pioneering states that opened this up,
Yeah,
and everyone, every state did it a little bit differently. Some had limited license, some had open licenses. Colorado's done, I believe, over $10 billion in cannabis sales since they went legal. So I think there's a lot to point to that says this is successful. I think that some of the stigma has disappeared. So people who would have never thought about having cannabis as part of their life or lifestyle are considering it. So that normalization is it really seems to be happening at an increased rate.
what do we need to do with Mr. Mitch McConnell, huh? Anyway, I want to focus our attention now on the East Coast in Ohio with the development of the NMG Ohio production facility, which you said earlier is expected to close, indicated as soon as next month. So, what's the update on what you expect with Ohio, and do you plan to start churning out sustainable sales output immediately?
Yeah, we do. That production facility is located right next to our dispensary, just outside of Cleveland, and we're in the process now of putting some of the final equipment in. So it's coming along fairly quickly. We've got a great extraction team. We're well known for our extracted products in Las Vegas, and we're going to
Yep.
bring that expertise into the Ohio market and start producing Body and Mind branded products very quickly.
What do you anticipate in that market, and what's some of the feedback that I guess you're receiving from local officials there?
Yeah, we were probably one of the first dozen dispensaries to open in Ohio. They do a great job in that state. It's a
Yep.
medical state. It's one of the largest. It's got 11 million people with roughly 60 dispensaries in the state. So it's a very limited license market,
Yeah.
and we're really looking forward to getting our products into the dispensaries in Ohio.
Well, keep up the great work. The results are showing, and it's one of the great stories that we're seeing unfold in the U.S. cannabis landscape. As always, great having you on, and let's keep in touch.
Thanks very much, Chad. Have a
All
great
right.
day.
Thanks, Michael.